If you're tired of playing the same old triads that sound boring and predictable, stick around because in the next couple of minutes I'm going to show you 5 game-changing ways to really unlock your fretboard using simple triads in a way that most guitarists completely miss. You see what I just did there? That's just one of the 5 techniques that I'm about to show you, and the best part is, if you know triads, then you already know how to use these shapes. You're just going to go ahead and use them in ways you might not have thought of before. So whether you're playing in a mega church or leading worship in a small group, these approaches will definitely help you to go ahead and create some more space and add movement and bring some fresh life to your playing. You don't need any fancy gear, any fancy theory. Simply, you just need a new way of thinking about simple triads and then find new ways to use them as I'm about to show you. Let's start with one of my favorites, which is a simple one-note technique that's going to transform how you approach lead lines. This is really what I call the single string method. Now here's where it gets interesting. Can you see this triad shape on screen right now? That's what most guitarists think of when they think about triads. But watch what happens when you grab just one note of the G string of each one of those triad shapes and then play it over a progression. Suddenly, you're not just playing chords anymore, you're actually weaving through the progression like a lead guitarist. Let me go ahead and show you exactly how this works. Alright, so that's a pretty cool sounding single note line. It's melodic and it's also got some rhythmic drive, and it's definitely going to go in and cut through the mix. So first of all, I want to show you how all this simply came from triad shapes. Now, the progression that we just played over here is a 6-4-1-5 progression in the key of C. So on the guitar, that's going to be A minor, F, C, and G. Nice and simple, just a 6-4-1-5 progression. Now, what a lot of guitarists might think about when they have to play triads over that is they might think like this: A minor, F, C, and then G, or potentially G. You know, and then when you play that kind of thing over the track, you can do some cool things. If I might put my delay back on and I could play something like this. You know, that's the kind of thing that most guitarists will think about when they play triads. But what I'm going to do here is I'm actually using my triad shapes just to locate my middle note. So if I play A minor like this, I'm going to play the middle note only. If I play F like this, the middle note stays on C. If I play C like this, my middle note stays on C. If I play G like this, my middle note goes to B. So that's quite cool, where you can have the same note for 3 chords and then only change it when you need to. So then I can play something like this. So as you can see, that's where those notes came from. I didn't have to use a scale, I simply used my triad shape to locate this middle note. Then I moved it up the neck like this, and again I used my triad shapes to locate the middle note. So that's A minor here, so it's locating the A. This is F, it's locating the A. This is C, locating the G, and and then G major. So as you can see, in our first example here, we are focusing on the G string. It sounds a little bit fatter when you play single notes on the G string than what they would when you play that same note on, say, the B or E string. So if I play the notes on the G string, that sounds nice. So then I just use my triads to outline the progression and then to show me what note I can target. Go and try this with any progression. If you play 1, 4, 6, 5, that might be 1, 4, 6, 5. 1, 4, 6, 5. Just play the progression anywhere in the guitar neck and then only play the note on the G string. Now I use a little bit of hammer-ons over there and a bit of phrasing where I'm kind of hammering onto the notes. You can do those kind of things as well. You can play it simply or you can just do simple swells. And all of those notes will come from triad shapes that you already know by simply playing that middle note. Let me go ahead and play that for you one more time. Check it out. Now that you've got that single note concept down, let's go ahead and take it to the next level by adding just one more note to that. That's going to turn this into octaves, and then you can go ahead and create some massive soaring lines that really fill the entire frequency range. The best part, it's exactly the same concept we've just learned. It all comes from triads, but now you get the ability to freely play across the whole fretboard using these maneuverable octaves. Alright, so again, it's the exact same progression. This time though, instead of just playing the note on the G string, I basically doubled the note an octave lower. And then it allows me to play freely across the neck using octaves, but thinking in a triad manner. What does that mean? Well, our first target note was here, that came from this A minor chord. So that targets my C note on the G string, which I then turn into an octave. Make sure that your string muting is dialed in so that you only play string 5 and 3 while you are muting all of the other strings. There's a video in the description that will show you exactly how to use string muting if you're not yet comfortable with that. So that's my note that I'm going to target over the A minor chord. It's a C. I could have stayed there, but I decided when I went to the F chord, instead of staying on that C, which is in this F triad, I went to this F over here. So my middle note is a target note, and then I turn that into an octave. So for A minor, I played C, then for F, I played F, and then for C, I just went down one fret to the E, and here's my triad. That's the target note is the E, which I turn into an octave. And then we went up to G. There's my G triad. It's my target note, and I make it an octave. Then when we went to A minor, the target note was A, which I made an octave. Then F, the target note was A, which I made an octave. And then C, the target note is C, which I made an octave. And then G, the target note is B, which I made an octave. So that actually allows you to start down here going up. So what that gives you is it feels like you're playing chords like maybe power chords, but most of the time when people play power chords, they always focus on the root note. But as you can see, for the A minor chord, I played C, which wasn't the root. So that was the minor third. Over F, I played F, which was the root. Over C major, I played E, which is obviously not the root. And then over G, I played G, which is the root. Then for A minor, I played A, which is the root. I stayed on A for F, which is not the root. Then I went to C over C major, which is the root, and then down one fret to B, which is not the root. So it's a nice mixture between root notes and other chord tones, either your third or your fifth. And you find them by using your triad shape to locate the note, and then you make that into an octave. Let me go ahead and play that for you one more time. Alright, now an interesting thing is that if this is my target note, I can make that an octave. But if that's my target note, I can also do this octave, which is fret 5 and 8. So I'm just finding the higher C. So I'm going to play this progression again one more time. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to play C over A minor. I'm going to play C over F. I'm going to play the C note over the C chord. And then I'm going to play the B note over the G chord. Then I'm going to play the E note over the A minor, the F note over the F, the E note over the C, and the D note over the G. So those are all triads. You can see it on screen where I get the target note from. But instead of playing a low octave, I'm playing a high octave. Let's go ahead and check that one out. Right, now you might have noticed me using slides like I've done before. That's just a way to kind of add some phrasing to the note. So instead of just playing C, you can slide into the C. And you do that by striking the strings, sliding and striking. So it's strike, slide, strike. So it's a cool technique in order to not pick and strike every single note, but actually just going ahead and sliding around and adding some phrasing to your notes. You can also go ahead and add some additional notes to that melody, so that once you hear what notes work well over the chords, your ear might hear some other melodies where you can go ahead and add some notes in to what you've already gotten, and that's what I'm going to show you right now. Alright, so that, I forget the name of the song, it might be Be Enthroned, but where that is basically the chords for a section in the song, and then, so it's A minor, then I go to F, C, so I'm just adding in that G A. So that's just a little melodic thing that I'm adding in that is then being repeated. So that's some freedom that you get when you are locating your middle note and then turning it into an octave, whether it's a low octave or the high octave. Now here's where things get really spicy. You know those closed triads that we've been showing you on screen? Well, we're about to crack things wide open because most guitarists never explore these open triad voicings, but they're absolutely essential for creating that ambient, spacious sound that you hear on many of your favorite worship recordings. Let's check this out. Alright, so that was open triads in action, and I want to show you where they come from. In essence, a closed triad is when all the notes exist within one octave. So if I take a C major triad like this, for example, all of these notes, the lowest note and the highest note, they are fit in within the range of an octave. But what I can actually do is I can take this, and then that middle note that we've spoken about before, I can move that down an octave. So now this is my new shape. So instead of C, as a closed triad, that is what happens over there. Then I can also do the same. I can play in terms of my triad over here, C. I can take this E note, the middle note, and I drop it an octave. And then that is what happens here. I can also take this C, and I take the middle note and I drop it down an octave. That way I've gotten I get what's known as these open triads. So in essence, it's a closed triad. You take the middle note and then you drop it an octave. Now for this example that I just played, I used the same progression as before. You can remember you can get the tabs and the backing track in the description. So this is my A minor triad. So I can take this middle note, the A note, and drop it down an octave. And then I played something like this, which is a really nice expansive sound as opposed to playing. I've got. And now for F, this is my triad. I take the middle note, I drop it down an octave. Then that becomes F over A. So from A minor, F. That's what that sounds like. Then I have this C over here. My middle note, drop it down an octave. And then for G, take my middle note, drop it down an octave. And now I've got A minor, F, C, G. And then I added kind of a rhythm that fit with that groove. And in essence, that's as if I'm playing A minor, F, C, and G. But I'm doing it with open triad. So that's another way in which you can take simple triads, take that middle note, drop it down an octave, and then you can get these really awesome expansive sounding voicings. Let's go ahead and play that once more with the backing. Now this next one is one of my secret weapons on the guitar. By simply dropping the notes on the G string from the chord shape entirely and just using the D and the B strings from your triad, we can create this awesome diad sound that's both your chord foundation as well as your gateway to melody. But here's the real magic in this. By doing it like this, you free up some of your other fingers that are now free to add some melodic embellishments that you can go ahead and bring in some melodic interest as you play. Let me show you what I mean. Alright, so what we've got there is what I call 4-2 diads, because I'm using the 4th string and the 2nd string to play diads, and a diad is simply a 2-note voicing. Also, these come from Triad, so that exact example I just played, this would be A minor triad, but then I drop the note on the G string, I don't play it at all, and then I'm just playing frets 10 and 10. For F, this is what an F triad looks like. I just totally drop the 10th fret on the G string, and then I play 10 and 10 on the D and the B strings. So that's actually exactly the same notes as my A minor diad, and I'll talk more about that shortly. Then for C, that's my triad, but then I just don't play the middle note, and then this will be my new C, and then this is G. That's my middle note, which I don't play. That will be 12 and 12. So now I've got A minor, F, C, G, using these 4-2 dyads. It's really super simple. Every major triad and every minor triad that you play on strings 4, 3, and 2, you're just going to eliminate that G string and then just play the 2 notes. So for example, let's do it in G. So instead of playing the G string, I'm just going D and B strings. And I can do the same for minor. So there's G minor. But I'm going to eliminate the notes on the G string, and then I'm going to get minor. So if I were to do this in A, major, minor, here's A major, A minor. So you can do so many cool things with these 4-2 voicings because you don't have that middle note. Therefore, there's more of a frequential range, or there's more space, not the range, but there's more space in the voicing because you're not trying to cram 3 notes together. The guitar kind of reacts differently when you play multiple notes together, and it has to go through the pickup. So if I play A minor like this, or A minor like that, it sounds quite full, but if I'm going, you can hear that cuts through the mix a lot easier. Now, because you're only using 2 fingers, you have 3 fingers, so I can play A minor like that. I can do a hammer on. I can go. Little embellishments which are super nice. We've got loads of videos on our channel teaching that, but a lot of folks have actually asked us how come the A minor and the F are exactly the same notes, because if you play A minor like this and F like that, it's clearly different notes. Well, check this out. An A minor triad looks like this, and an F triad looks like that. They are different. But since the note that makes a difference is on the G string, if I remove that note entirely, A minor, A and F, it's exactly the same notes. So that's a handy little way in which you can use triad shapes, but don't actually play the G string, just eliminate it entirely, just play the 4-2 diads, and then you can go ahead and add in some embellishments for some melodic interest. Let's go ahead and play that for you one more time. Get the full backing track and detailed tabs for every example that I play in this lesson. Just click the link in the description to download them now and then start practicing these techniques today. Now for this last technique, we're completely flipping the script. Instead of spreading the triads across multiple strings with the typical shapes that most guitarists use, what we're going to do is we're going to condense them onto just 1 or 2 strings. Now that might sound counterintuitive, but just check out how this can really unlock the entire fretboard by showing you where all the notes live. This could really revolutionize how you see chord progressions, and it can also help you unlock some creative parts that were hiding in plain sight. Alright, so this final example is more of a teaching example, but it's really cool way to just show you how you can redistribute the notes of the triad. So for example, instead of playing A minor like this, which is E, A, C, I can take the C note and actually play it there. Then I can get E, A, C. So that kind of gives me some more maneuverability to get out of that box, as opposed to just playing it as a chord shape, which is fine in some cases, but if you want to get some lead lines, it's better to kind of break out the box. Alright, so that's for A minor. Then the next shape you've got here is an F. F, A, C. And what I can do here is I can take F, but the A note, I'm going to play it there, and the C note, I'm going to play it there. So instead of F, A, C, I've got F, A, C. It's again just a nice way to slide out of that position. Then for C major, we've got E, G, C, which I can do E, G, C. Kind of gets you out the box. And then for G, which I've got D, G, B, I can kind of get out the box like that. So A minor, F, C, and then G. And you can also do all of it on one string as well if you wanted to do that. But it's nice when you can kind of split that between 2 notes, because then you get that opportunity to play some fun slides. Let me go ahead and just play that for you one more time. Again, single notes using simple triads. Alright, so there you go, 5 really cool ways that you can go ahead and use triads. Way number 1, simply just using the middle note on its own instead of the full triad shape. So use the triad shape to locate the middle note. The second way is where you can make that an octave by doubling that middle note, either a low octave or a high octave. Then our third way was looking at open triads, where we take the triad shape but we drop the middle note down an octave while still playing the other notes. Then we looked at the 4-2 voicings, which is a triad by eliminating the middle note entirely. So then we're just playing the D and the B strings. And then finally, taking those triad shapes, but instead of playing all the notes in a chord box, we take some of the notes and we kind of slide out of position to go ahead and find the notes all over the guitar. So I really hope that you got a lot out of this video and that you can see that these simple triads can actually go ahead and give you some really interesting and creative approaches for coming up with guitar parts. Now, the thing that's super important when you want to use this in many of the examples that I've played is learning how to use string muting so that you can play with proper conviction and confidence, but not being afraid of hitting some strings that shouldn't be ringing out. So for that, you need string muting to keep the notes silent that shouldn't ring out, and being able to strike the strings and the notes that should actually ring out. So this video right here will show you how to go ahead and use string muting in your playing. Check that out, and I'll see you in the next video.